The enemy that you and I are facing in this world is savvy. This dude's like he's savvy, and what he wants to do is he wants to get something that God wants you to have. And so, you know, the closer he can get us to an immoral thought process, the closer he can get to immoral behavioral patterns, the closer he can get us to losing a relationship that really, 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 really matters. And so we have to keep in mind that this relationship, this covenant relationship that is sealed and secured through the consummation of sexual intercourse, has to be protected. You know, you got to put some fencing up. Yeah. You know, yes, does Jesus say that adultery is a reason for it? He does. He does. And I want to talk a little bit about that, because I do believe that one of the things that we run into that I think is a mistake, and I've seen this happen before. You're married, your spouse cheats. Okay. Let's just walk into that a little bit, and I'm going to throw another one at Karen. So Karen, your spouse has cheated on you. A person's spouse has cheated on them. Yeah. What do they need to do at that point? What needs to be like first moves, some of the first moves?
Yeah. First move is get a counseling appointment.
That's right. 100%.
That's good. Yeah.
That's good.
There is no way to walk through that. Yeah. There's too much betrayal, too much pain and hurt associated with that. You really need that person that can mediate, help you see things clearly, because there's so much pain. You know, and another thing to really heal from a relationship that there's been adultery, you have to sit down with one another. You have to confess your sin. Yeah. And then, you know, one of the things that we recommend is you have to write a letter to the other person that you were in a relationship with, and say, this is done, this is ended, and you mail it. Yeah. So in other words, fresh start. Yep. Now we rebuild. Yep. So there has to be that initial responsibility. Yep. Taking responsibility for your actions, and then putting all your effort into your marriage to heal, connect to God, and then heal. And I think for that healing to even have a chance, what I've always done over the years is I feel like that we need to really get into this where this wound is. Yeah. We got to clear some stuff, clean some stuff out before we start trying to stitch something up and it's got infection trapped inside of it. What we're going to do first is we're going to completely expose it. We're going to get to the very bottom of it. All the questions, the spouse that's been cheated on needs to have, the reason why counseling is so important is that you need a navigator for something less painful. Yeah. Yeah. Number two, you need a hostage negotiator, you know. Yes. And then thirdly, you need someone that helps you understand the rules of this, because here's how it works. If you don't get, as the one who was cheated on, if you don't get all of your questions answered, then these questions are going to linger. And every time we try to build something forward, we're going to rip the stitches back out, and we're going to be back to square one. And at some point you get fatigue and you begin to not believe that healing and reconciliation can happen. Yeah. So we want to start first by, let's expose what happened completely. Yeah. Let's get to the bottom of it. There could be no secrets. You have to have a safe environment where questions can be asked and they have to be answered with raw, brutal facts. Absolutely. And you just got to get to the brutal truth of this. And once that's happened, then we can begin reconciliation. Then we can begin. You need to know, first of all, if you're the one that has to forgive the sin against you, you're going to want to know what sin do I have? How was I sinned against? The other person needs to know by confession, the devastation, that's one, but I think the confession also brings about healing. The Bible says, confess your sins one to another. And so we got to get to the bottom of this thing, and we've got to understand fully what we're up against before we try to rebuild. What I see couples do very often is that hurt happens. They quickly throw a bandage on top of infection. Yep. They jump right back in to trying to pretend like everything's okay, and then they linger along until the infection kills them. We need to get to the bottom of it, and we need to get it cleaned out. We need to get it dressed well, and there's a process of coming back together. And here's another thing, and Karen, I want to see your thoughts on this, all right? So I used to tell couples this all the time. I would say this: the moment that adultery happened, at that moment, you're not married anymore. And the person who has been cheated on, you now have a choice as to whether you want to remarry this person or not. So you're back in a courtship phase. In fact, the last thing you want to do is jump right back in bed and let's try to fix this with more sex. You know, what's broken, let's just add more to it. Yeah. You right now are single. Both of you are single. And you're going to make a decision whether you're going to marry each other again. And the reason why I feel like that's important is because the person who was cheated on needs to know that I have a choice now.
Yeah.
And my choice is, do I want to reconcile or not? That's important. And I always push them to reconcile the marriage. But what I also say is let's get all your questions answered. Let's make sure you're satisfied with where you are. And let's work on a process of reintegrating back together, because later on, if you enter back into intimacy with this person, you've re-ratified that covenant. You're married again then. Yeah. So now all of a sudden, you can't later go, yeah, but he cheated on me 6 months ago. Yeah, now I'm gonna default back to that, and now I want to get a divorce. Yeah. So now all of a sudden it's very complicated, and there's not really a good roadmap for this, because we're operating off of God's roadmap. God gave us a roadmap. You're supposed to sleep with each other, and so I mean, how do you see it? Do you feel that way, Karen, or what do you think about that? I mean, I did that several times, and I just said, look, I need you to know that you have a choice in this. And by making that decision, we're going to work on some things. There's a process, but once you enter back into this relationship again, you're saying, hey, I commit myself to you again. We're committing anew to each other and ratifying this covenant that was broken. And we're going to enter back into marriage again is what we're doing. Right now, we're not. That was broken. That covenant was torn.
Sure.
Do you see it that way?
Yeah, definitely. I think that first step, what we talked about, the letter, you write it down, you confess, you have open communication. And Lynn always says, whether it's the husband or the wife, whichever one, basically what you did is you moved into a glass house.
Yeah.
Because to be able for there to be total forgiveness, there's going to be questions. You're going to have to answer them. You're going to have to rebuild trust. So it is a starting over again.
Yeah.
You have to rebuild that relationship that's broken. It is one of the most destructive things that happens in the marriage. And obviously the Bible agrees with that, because it's one of the reasons why you can divorce. So relationally, it is a deep, painful hurt.
Sure.
So to move forward as if nothing happened is not a wise decision.
Yeah.
But a lot of times couples, because in our society, counseling is not really normalized,
no,
unfortunately. Right. They'll come in after the third affair.
Yeah.
Or, it happens every weekend. So it depends on the couple. Everybody's different. But usually there's been more than one affair.
Yeah.
So they've tried to just, okay, it's fine, let's move on.
That's right.
And then the second one happens. So, I totally agree. There needs to be acknowledgement, take responsibility for it, that open confession, and then a decision. Am I willing to put everything into this marriage to save it, to forgive, to walk through healing? And that may mean going back. Sometimes this behavior was learned, or they're trying to fill a void that they have.
Sure.
So at times we separate couples. The man will go see my husband, and the wife will come see me, and we'll work through deep pain and hurt.
Sure.
And then bring them back together. So every situation is different, but yes, I totally agree that you have to have that moment of decision.
Absolutely. And I think also too, I had one couple that I'll just tell you guys a story. I will never use names or anything, but I'm going to use basic things that happened. But I had a couple that, the husband had cheated on the wife, and I'd been through this a number of times with couples where the one who cheated, never really ended the affair. So we're over here, I'm wasting my stinking time counseling with this knucklehead, and he's still having an affair. And, and you can never get through the problem if the one who's the offender wants to continue to offend, and they've already learned the comfort of a duplicitous lifestyle. I'm going to be husband, dad over here, and then I'm going to be over here, boyfriend, whatever, clubbing over here thing. And, I remember we were in a meeting, we were counseling, and, she said, I think he's still seeing her. I really do. I think he said, I'm not, I promise you I'm not. And she said, he's still got her number in his phone. I said, well, give me your phone. And I called her on the phone right there where we were sitting there, man. It's the best thing ever. I said, hey, Susie Q. I said, Susie Q. I said, you seeing so-and-so? And she said, yeah, he was just here last night. I'm on speakerphone. I said, well, I'm sitting here counseling with him and his wife. She said, yeah, she needs to tell him, and he needs to stay home. And I was like, so anyway, there it was, but what though? That marriage worked out and is unbelievably strong today, as tumultuous and crazy as you see that thing. It worked, y'all. And that marriage is crazy strong now. I'm not making that up,